Hello again, students. This is Professor Peter Gregory, and this video has to do with scoring in McGraw-Hill practice. So for most of my classes, as you can see how many times that I've used McGraw-Hill practice in my courses, every one of these lines is a class. So we're talking on something on the order of 12 to 15 times I've used this, which is a really good system. And in fact, I was just talking to some students today about how much they've gotten out of this practice. It's really put together very well. And basically what you're learning is how to do a workout, how to tease out the details of an operation without anybody telling you. Nobody left any kind of guidebook except for the student manual. Whatever you can get in there gives you some basic ideas. But as you know now, by the time you've run this a few times into different modules, it really takes rolling up your sleeves and understanding where the profits are here based on what your sales, what your revenues are, what the contract value is on any of these contracts versus the expenses that we need to take out to understand profitability on these, okay? And something I want to show here is scoring. So the topic of this video is scoring. This is a current class for MGT 5110, the operations management class. If I go into this, you can see this is my view, of course. This is my dashboard as an instructor, and I can either go in and play this. If a student has a question, sometimes I have to go in there and actually execute inside a module to figure out what the situation might be, or I can also assign the modules. So before the course even starts first day, I always set up the mod 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Because these are the most predictable. These are the first, 4 levels that we need to get to over the period of 2 to 3 weeks, depending on which course this is. Okay. So when you enter into here, again, what I want to describe is I'm going to take you into what it looks like when I create a module for this. In fact, I'm going to create a live module for this course. I'm going to come into here in module 5, and I'm going to name this mod 5. Nothing more to say there. I'm just going to leave it as mod 5. I'm going to make the due date something out here. I'm going to go into May. The last day of class would be the 7th of May, I believe. Okay, so the 7th of May, put that in there. I'm going to put it at 6 o'clock is when our class starts. There's 50 turns, and I'm going to click unlimited attempts unless I type a number of how many times you can redo it. For better or worse, with unlimited attempts, that means you can keep going at it until you get goal achieved or you get the score that you're after. Okay, so now we'll go into here a little bit. I don't really touch anything here. I'm going to leave the tutorial on. Okay, so those are the leading questions. Module 5 has like 1 or 2 questions on the way in, barely any clicks at all. What I do is allow students to see classmates' score. And as a matter of principle, I don't allow students to restart attempts because when you have the option of bailing out, you can get trapped in a perpetual cycle of getting to about halfway through this and trying to get out. And the real value is pushing through. At worst, what can happen is if you really think it's worth bailing out, you can just keep hitting end turn until it all ends. But as you know, that if you leave this before finishing a certain module, your scores are kept live, or your progress is kept alive for the next time that you come in here. Okay, so I can turn the tutorial off. What happens is if I have to issue a certain module a number of times to get everybody through, people are pretty much familiar with what the tutorial is by then, and I turn that off so you don't have to go through the 40 some odd steps it takes in mod 4 to get into and start operating there. Okay, so those are how I set up this set of parameters. And now we get to scoring. I never change these scorings. So we take the highest score that you ever do. If you do multiple attempts before the deadline, then it'll keep the highest score, report back to me what your highest score is. Now, goal achieved, it's stated at the beginning of every module what the goal achieved is. You have to have so many contracts and maybe so much net value. You have to look at that carefully, make sure you're working toward that. But then there's these 3 other scores that get averaged in here. At half of the score will be your goal achieved. 15% is timeliness. So did you get things out on time? What was your net worth? Money is everything. Okay. You could see that they're valuing just getting the goal achieved, getting the number of contracts out, and hitting a certain amount of net worth, if that's part of the goal, as half the value of your entire score. Okay. So this is what you call a balanced scorecard here. Okay. And they're saying that getting your goal achieved is 2.5 times as valuable as hitting your net worth goes. 20%, if you hit your net worth, you get 20%, okay? And then finally, your reputation score comes from delivering on time and making everybody happy. And so the total score is the weighted average of all these. Well, I don't touch these scores, and I only count goal achieved unless I otherwise clearly specify. And so usually getting through through module 4, module 1, 2, 3, and 4, your only target that you need to do is hit goal achieved. That's not easy, but I'm not looking at your overall score. And I want to mention here that what happens is, let's see, I'm going to save and exit this, okay? So now we see that there's a mod 5 with a deadline of May 7th at 6 p.m. And you can see that in the back end of this, in the technology of McGraw-Hill practice, it's working on finalizing what I just did. It's just sitting there. If I refresh the page, probably it'll come back and say, okay, it takes a little while for it to, for some reason, let me go back in here. Let me continue. I didn't save this correctly. There's a final step where I need to, that's what I did. I probably stepped out before I created it. Okay, so there I created. Now that I created, it's active. It's going to be active until before that last class. And so that's going to be open, and that's a little bit more self-directed to do module 5, in fact, not module 6. But what I'm talking about as far as this goes is you understand that, let's go into mod 1, and these are the scores so far. Mod 1 is fairly straightforward, so everybody should get goal achieved. And all I do is I come into the record and I look at goal achieved. I don't look at the weighted score. Now that matters. You should try to be doing very well. But one of the things I want to mention about that is if you're the first one to finish this, your weighted score is going to be relatively high. And as more students come in here, your score may go down or go up, and that throws students off. So don't necessarily be watching the weighted score. I mean, I think it's a fun part of competition and competitiveness as to how everybody did, but you'll look at a range of these other rep scores. Here's your net worth and time online, completed on time, CT online. Remember, these are the 4 parts of the overall score here, and they give you the weighted score. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little mention about that. Again, I'm only looking at goal achieved until later rounds. And unless explicit about it, I'll tell you when we go into some other scoring mode and we start considering the net worth and whatever. Okay, that's it for this video. Hopefully that's helpful.